Hello for the 32nd Sunday in Ordinary Time, using the first reading from the book of Kings, 1 Kings 17:10-16, and the Gospel of Mark 12:38-44. And I call this one Two Men in a Truck. You ever see those trucks running around town? Big black and white, black printing and white truck. Two men in a truck, a moving company. Are they just local? Or are they international or national? I don't know, but I thought of two men in a truck when I've thought of these two readings. But it's not two men, it's two women in a short story or a parable. Two women in a story. Well, the first woman in this first reading from Kings, it's a famine. She has a son, just the two of them, and they're really starving. And she's getting ready to make their last meal. And on the scene arrives the prophet Elijah. You know, Elijah went through a famine once himself, and God, this is previous in the scriptures, and God provides for Elijah food and water. And God took care of Elijah. And here Elijah enters the scene and says, or sort of demands, it seems like, you're making a meal for your son and then you're going to die. Well, why don't you just give me a cup of water? Oh, and she says, well, while you're at it, how about a bit of bread? Mm. And she's going to take care of him. Then finally, he says, well, first of all, before you tend to your son and do your meal, why don't you bake me a cake? Hmm, that son of a gun. So that Elijah doesn't sound like a what, but apparently Elijah had something else in mind, because he said, don't be afraid, be taken care of. And by golly, this woman takes care of this prophet, and she gets an award or a reward. And the reward is that the jug of oil, and the jar of wheat, or the bread that she makes and so forth, it never runs out for a year. And in fact, in and through God's power, Elijah says, you will be rewarded. And so it was. Pretty good story. God provides and helps poor people, even it is through an arrogant prophet. That's my opinion. Well, the second woman is a woman. She's a poor woman in the synagogue or in the community service. And it comes time to pass in the plate or the basket, and she pulls out few coins, a few pennies, and drops them in the basket. And Jesus notices. But he also notices the rest of the people that I guess he knew they had a lot of money, and they put in the money in the basket. And he says, that woman, she put in more than all of the others combined. She gave in the need with her few pennies. They gave from their surplus, and she gave some of the last money that she had. She is a heroine in giving, because she gave not from surplus, she gave her last few pennies. A nice parable. But sometimes, I don't know about you, but that makes me Guilty. All right. Feel guilt. This past week, I thought I gave 3 large amounts of money to charities. I gave quite a bit to Catholic Action Center, quite a bit to Pax Christi, and quite a bit to the Newman Foundation to help poor university students around our diocese. And in my mind, that's substantial. But then deep down in my mind, when I read this gospel, I really didn't give with, I gave part of my surplus. I didn't give everything. I gave my surplus money. And I do this every year. At the end of the year, I choose a couple charities and give what I think is substantial, but it's surplus. And so, you can feel guilty that you gave substantial, not from your surplus, and feel guilty. Or what I like to say and try to live out and suggest is the message of Jesus Christ. As he says these things, he gives these stories or these parables for a healthy tension that you can give a lot, seemingly a lot. But, but he even says it very often, always, or he says, go sell all you have, give the poor, come follow me, or give all of your money away. And some of us interpret that and wind up with just guilt. I say he didn't mean that. He meant a healthy tension. So, oh yeah, probably could give more. Well, but I'm going to give. I should always forgive, and I try to forgive all the time, but I don't. No. And Jesus is like that. And it's important that you sort of think deeply or pray about, should I forgive my dad or my mom, or should I give the squabble that I had with so and so? It's the end of the year coming, November, December, where a lot of people give to charity. How much should I give? You know, healthy tension is the name of the game. How do you feel when you read that gospel? What do you think when you read that story with the prophet Elijah, that woman, her son? If you raise your mind and heart to God in what you're doing, of how much, how often am I forgiving, or how much am I giving, or whatever. Healthy tension, not guilt trip. I like this, still trying to figure out that 2 minute in the truck, but I like this 2 women in a story or a parable. Have a good day.